Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. I'm Stephanie Fisher. I'm a licensed counselor here in the state of Michigan, and I'm owner and operator of In Progress Counseling. We're going to talk about where our attention goes, our energy flows. And that's not a new conversation here, but when I am doing kind of an appraisal of life with someone, we watch where their brain typically takes them. And often, especially when we're talking about anxiety and depression and other clinical type of diagnoses, often the default of the brain goes towards a harsh appraisal of our resources, a harsh appraisal of our options, a harsh appraisal of our own competence or capabilities. And it's like, to a degree, what does that matter? Because if I look at the more of the pessimistic sides of things, it's still a valid side of things to be looking at, right? Well, related to how we navigate the world, it actually has some pretty significant implications if my brain is defaulting towards the negative appraisal or a harsh appraisal of myself, of other people, of the context that I'm in, etc. And so I'll often with clients use the analogy of, let's say that you're going to a buffet. Buffets are notorious for having copious amounts of options, whether it's 100, whether it's 200, I don't know. I just know there's a lot of stuff there. Now, let's say I go to a buffet and I have a dietary restriction. And let's say the dietary restriction says I really have to watch my carbohydrate consumption, which is going to include that, deliciously devious subcategory of sugar. Let's say I'm going into a buffet and carbohydrate restriction and sugar restriction is a part of how I navigate. Now I walk up to the buffet and my brain sees every carbohydrate laden sugar thing that I now have to say no thank you towards. Now, if I stand there and I look at the sugar items and the carbohydrate items and I fixate on them and I'm noticing, oh, I'm not going to have that, and I'm not going to have the potatoes, and I can't have the rolls, and I can't have the stuffing, and I can't have the this. You can tell Thanksgiving's on my brain because that's what those examples were. I can't have the pumpkin pie, right? When my brain starts tracking the most negative interpretation of things, can't have that, can't have that, can't have that, can't have that, the negative emotions that flows from that can actually be a huge onslaught of physiological upset. So I'm feeling disappointment, I'm feeling frustrated, I have some scarcity ideas running, I have maybe some fear running. And what happens is my emotions follow that pathway. So if I'm harshly appraising, there's negative emotions that are the consequence of my harsh appraisal. Now that we would look at that as kind of a scarcity mindset, all the things I can't have and the fear that comes with, oh my word, there's such limited options. The other side of that, if my perspective was and my orientation was and the way I directed my brain was towards all the things I can have. So I look at the salad bar offering and I notice that there's a ton of different options that are more protein based and more fruit and veggie. Now I still have to watch carbohydrates in copious amounts, but limited carbohydrates is one of the superstar features of a lot of our fruits and veggies, more so veggies. But if I'm noticing, oh, I could have a salad and it could have like 7 or 8 different items on it, and there's a high, yummy, full fat dressing that I can be using, and I'm really unlimited to a large degree on a lot of the proteins that I want to bring in, because I can add chicken to the salad, and I could add some ham to the salad, and I could add some bacon bits to the salad, and I could add some cheese to the salad. And then I'm looking at different other protein offerings, and I'm noticing in a short amount of time, my plate is still heaping full. Now, it's not all of the things. And in fact, when I compare it to other people's plates, there's probably some things over there that I would prefer for myself. But if I'm adamant about looking at all the things I'm not afforded, the negative emotions is going to follow that. If I'm sitting in the abundance and noticing, oh, I can have this and I can have this and I can have this, that's a generous appraisal. That's looking at more of the opportunities that I have, not the things that I have to forego. The emotions will follow the pathway. So if I am capturing and I am focusing and I'm directing myself towards the things I have access to, the resources that I do have, and clinically speaking, the opportunities that are in front of me, the competence that I actually do have, the strong relationships, they're not perfect, but they're lovely. The more we can capture that, the more we actually have a pathway towards mitigating a lot of stress and anxiety. but where our attention goes, our energy flows. And when I focus on the negative, when I focus on the things that aren't afforded to me, or I do the social comparison and see all the ways I'm missing out, that negative emotional expression will be part and parcel of the appraisal that I'm doing. If I'm noticing the things that are working, the things I am competent in, the successes that I have been able to move towards, the different changes I can make, as I appraise that, there's a different emotional expression that's happening, and it typically orients us towards positive emotional expression. Things like satisfaction, contentment, some type of even happiness potentially. The point being, where my attention goes, my energy flows. And as long as we gridlock in that negative appraisal, part and parcel of that is negative emotional expression. As I span out and I start to look at a more balanced picture of, yep, that, and that are off limits, but, and I have access to this, and this, that type of flexible thinking and that type of guiding our thoughts and guiding our intention towards the things that we do have access to, huge implications in our emotional processing system. That's our invitation today. Where am I focusing? What are my emotional experiences because of that focus? And maybe even, do I want to change my focus?